I'm in Asturias, a mountain region in the north of Spain, and I'm on a Viking adventure, and I need a pair of shoes. On a warm day like this, it's nice to be by the river. Here the overhanging trees provide some shelter from the sun, and there's plenty of singing birds. I start by attending to the upper part of the shoes. The vegetable tanned goat hide is about 3 millimeters thick, but the part where it'll be sewn to the sole needs to be thinner. For that I use a skewing tool. I gently remove material from the lower edge until the leather is tapering into about 1 millimeter. This next step is very important to give the shoe a nice fit and allow form and shape in the right places. You will see this later on in the video. But I make a hole in the tip of each side in the front, one in each side approximately 7 centimeters from the tip following the sole, one in the tip of the heel triangle, and one in each side of the heel triangle where the triangle comes down towards the bottom of the shoe. And the last hole will be in the middle of the low part between the two other holes on each side. The exact location of these holes is not crucial, but they should be placed roughly like this. Again, you will see the reason for this later on in the video. So the next step is to stitch the upper back together on the top of the foot. I use a diamond shaped awl as I prefer the elongated holes rather than the round tip ones. This way the final stitching lies nicer, and in my opinion the holes close better back on the thread. I want to make a line of holes all the way around the top of the upper. I normally use a waxed linen thread, but in my back here I only had artificial sinew. No matter what you use, it has to be very strong and durable. I use a shoemaker's stitch or a saddle maker's stitch to sew the top of the upper together, and I need a long piece of thread with a needle in each end. To make one stitch, both needles have to go through the next hole from either side. It is very important to tighten every single stitch as you go along. You can start to see the upper coming into shape now as I sew it together. I use my hand as a measurement to find the length of this stitching, from where my thumb meets my index finger and to the tip of my index finger. I can always add a stitch or open it up a bit later if needed. The last part of the upper for now is to add a decoration stitch around the top. I use a simple whip stitch. Remains of shoes from Haithabu shows this line of holes and tread marks on the leather indicating this exact finish. Now it's time to attend to the soles. I need to make a line of holes all the way around the sole. The shape of the awl is very important. I need this bended shape, a diamond flat profile, and a scooping motion to make the holes the right way. And I place my finger on the awl as a stop, so the awl does not go too far in and breaks through the leather. The awl needs to enter from the flesh side of the sole. This will later be the inside of the sole. By wriggling the awl gently through in this motion, it comes out through the edge of the sole. This takes some practice. If the leather is very hard, I recommend soaking it first. This leather is fairly soft and I can make the holes quite easy. I make the holes roughly 5 millimeters from the edge and approximately 7 millimeters apart. At the heel I make 3 holes in one for the tip and one for each side. Now I have to pay attention to the holes I made earlier to give the shoe the right shape and form. If I just sewed the shoe together from heel to toe, or the other way around, I might get too much or too little material in some places. The 2 holes at the tip are now jointed in the stitching of the upper, and I tie them to the hole in the very tip of the sole with a simple knot. I follow the upper along the sole till the next hole. Instead of taking the corresponding hole in the sole, I skip and go 1 hole further. I do this on both sides. This rises the tip of the shoe up a little and adds some form. At the heel, it's the same procedure. The heel tip of the sole must go on the outside of the shoe, and the next holes I follow down, find the corresponding hole in the sole, and go 1 step further. The last hole is straightforward and goes in the middle of the sole. This gives the shoe shape and form and divides the final stitching into smaller sections where adjustments can be made. It's another warm day and I found a lovely shady spot by this small rock stream near the waterfall in the forest. It's finally time to stitch the shoes together and try them on. My feet are hurting a bit from walking and hiking bare feet, so it'll be good with a pair of shoes. I sew 1 small section at a time. I use my needle to go through the holes in the sole and mark the position in the upper with the tip. This way I know that the holes will have the right position. I use the same saddle makers or shoemakers stitch as we used before and tighten every stitch. When I need to change the thread, I go a few holes backwards and forwards again to secure the thread so the stitch won't undo itself. I also tie some knots just to be on the safe side. The area around the heel takes some care and attention. If in the end the heel triangle is too long, and as it is on the outside of the shoe, I can always add a stitch from the outside to hold it in place. In sections where there is a gap or stretch between the upper and the sole, I recommend counting the holes in the sole and space them out accordingly on the upper. Viking shoes are called turnshoes because, like this shoe here, it's sewn inside out. Now it's time to turn the shoe inside out, so all seams are neatly tucked away and protected on the inside. Soaking the shoe makes this process easier. I always start at the tip of the shoe and push it through. Be careful not to overstretch the leather and be too hard on the seams. Once the tip is through, the rest of the shoe folds nicely around. This process might seem impossible, but don't give up, it will turn. The seams can be a bit bulky on the inside of the shoe and may not be comfortable for your feet. The solution is to flatten the seams while they are wet, either by gently hammering or rubbing and grinding them with a flat surface. This way the seams are compressed and molded down flat. The final step is to add the lacing. There are several ways to do this, but I like to do it like this. The shoes will start out very tight at first, and the first time I wear them I have no socks. I put them on wet and will let them sit on for a while and get the shape of my foot just right as they slowly dries. As soon as they start to dry a little bit, I will start using them for walking so they can stretch and give just the right way to fit my feet and my way of walking. During the day, they'll be dry on my feet. As you see, it's a perfect fit for my foot. And now it's time for a well-deserved meal here in the shade. Now the shoes are completely dried up and it's time to treat the leather to add water resistance, durability and protection, both to the leather and the thread and the seams. I prefer leather grease based on beeswax and natural oils or fats. Now they will stretch a little more and it's time for me to put on my socks and wear them with the shoes. They will still need some time to stretch the last little bit to make room for the socks. When they do, they will be the most comfortable piece of footwear you have ever tried.